Welcome to my channel, and I'm back with you once again with another video of XPlane 11, almost after a year or more than that. I have purchased and downloaded the FlightFactor Airbus A320 Ultimate, I think more than a year back, and I wanted to do a video. Somehow I've been busy, and plus I was busy with Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I was experiencing the Microsoft Flight Simulator, and somehow I wanted to also experience the FlightFactor's Airbus A320 and XPlane 11. Somehow in the last 1 week I just got a chance, and I've been doing some flights, and today so I thought of making this video for you guys. First of all, I would like to tell you that you can purchase this plane, the A320 by FlightFactor, from XPlane 11, from XPlane.org, not XPlane 11.org, XPlane.org. So here's the site. You go to airliners and Airbus airliners, and over there you'll find this A320 Ultimate. I purchased it for $89.95, but it's now $79.95. There's a sale going on. I couldn't wait for a year. Otherwise I would have gotten a good deal. Okay, so you can download this plane. It's in the compressed format, and once you unzip it or uncompress it, you can install this plane by placing the folder in the XPlane 11 folder. My XPlane 11 is installed through Steam, so I have to go into Steam Apps, Common, and then XPlane 11, and then there is a folder Aircraft. So I simply go and paste this folder over here in this Aircraft folder, and that's it. So it's easy, and once you start the XPlane 11, this plane is available, and you can activate the plane from the MCDU. So that's very simple. Today I will be doing a short flight from Heathrow to Frankfurt, one of my favorite routes. Let's go here and select this plane. FlightFactor A320 Ultimate is already selected, and I'll go to EGLL. It's though already selected, but I just wanted to show you. EGLL is the ICAO code for this London Heathrow Airport. I'll just go here, and we'll start the flight from this gate, because I want to start the plane from the cold and dark state, and just wanted to take you just wanted to take you through the procedures. So that's it. I will be taking off from runway 9 left. We'll be making the flight plan in SimBrief. So once I am in the plane and we have started the plane, then we will just switch to the flight planning part, and there I will give you some more details on the flight planning. I will be using SimBrief for flight planning. Weather, I'm using the match real world conditions settings, and for the time I've set it at 9 in the morning because I wanted to do a morning flight, not matching the real world time because it's already late. I think it's evening over here when I'm making this video. You can see it's already 5 o'clock and it's some winters, obviously. So in winters the daylight is less, days are short, nights are long. So let's wait for this plane to load. So you can see on your screen that before the XPlane 11 starts, this plane loads. So here we are in the cockpit at Heathrow Airport. The runway is on the right side from where I will be taking off from runway 9 left. You can see the plane is in the cold and dark state. All the screens are off, everything is off. So first of all, you can create, I will tell you one thing before I proceed further. You can create your own checklist. I've prepared my own checklist, and as I've been doing so many flights in Microsoft Flight Simulator and XPlane 11, so I have learned few things by heart. I don't have to refer to a checklist, but anyhow, you have to prepare a checklist. You can find it over the internet, and plus from this tutorial you can also take notes and prepare a checklist. So first of all, there is this tab available, and from this tab, let's put the chocks on, and plus let's call for the ground power unit, which is the GPU. And if we just jump out of the plane, you will see that the ground power unit is connected. So this is the ground power unit which is connected to the plane right now. So let's get back into the plane, and let's turn on the battery. So first of all, there is a small what you can say an introduction I wanted to give you regarding the power. The plane is powered by 3 types of powers. One is the ground power unit, then is the auxiliary power unit, the APU, and then the engines. When the plane is parked at the ground, the power is given by the GPU, and you can get the power from the GPU. Once everything is done, the passengers have boarded the plane, the luggage is there in the plane, catering is done, everything is done. Then before the pushback, the plane goes on to the APU, which is the auxiliary power unit. It's a generator inside the plane which gives power to the engine to power up the air conditioners and all the lighting and plus the cockpit, whatever is required. So it's done from the APU. And after the pushback, once the engine is started, the plane gets power from the engines, and then the APU is turned off. So this is a kind of a basic thing I wanted to tell you. So let's start with the starting procedures. First of all, turn on the battery 1 and battery 2. So now the batteries are up, and you can see some lights in the cockpit, some life into the cockpit. And from here, and you can see over here on this panel, overhead panel, I will show you that the external power is available. So I will click this button and all the lights will just light up, and the air conditioning is also up. Now the power is coming through the ground power unit, and everything is up and running. Soon you will start to see things in the primary flight display, which is PFD over here, and plus the navigation display, which is over here, and ECAMs will also be up. It's a nice cockpit. Throttle is set to 0. This is the most important thing that you have to check. Throttle should be gears are down, obviously it's parked at the ground. Flaps are retracted, so some basic settings, and parking brake should be on. So these are the basic things that you have to check before you proceed further. As now we have everything up and running, we can call in for the passengers and for the cargo and everything. So first of all, let's go to the fuel, and before the fueling, let's make a flight plan. Okay, let's switch to SimBrief and make a flight plan, and then we'll come back and we'll see how much fuel will be required. So here I am in the SimBrief, and I will just tell you some basics about SimBrief. If you're new to the SimBrief option, this is a very good website, simbrief.com, which is a good utility to make flight plans for XPlane 11, for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and some other simulators. And it's free of cost. You don't have to pay anything for this website. All you have to do is make your login, and once you have your login, you can just start making the flight plans. So this flight plan is a new flight plan, and I will be flying out from EGLL, which is the ICAO code for the Heathrow airport, and I will be landing at EDDF, which is Frankfurt. That's it, and date is correct. Airframe is Airbus A320. You can see it over here. Just select the airframe, and from here, nothing else required. Just select the runway 9 left. This is from where I will be taking off, and I will be landing at 7 right. Well, let's make it 7 left. 7 left. Okay. So once I have selected the runways, the flight plan is here. I will just tell you the details of the flight plan. If you're new to the flight planning, this will be something useful for you. Passengers I will set to full. Will be a full flight. Cargo, let's keep it 0. This ZFW is 0 fuel weight. Let's keep it at auto, because the plane will automatically calculate it. And the cruising altitude, I will set it as 35,000 feet. Okay, so now this is the basic. We'll take off from 9 left, land at 7 left in Frankfurt. Extra fuel I'm not carrying. 35,000 feet is the altitude for the cruising. For the cruise, and passengers full. That's it. So before we proceed further, let's generate the flight plan, and let's look at the amount of fuel that we will be carrying for this flight. It's roughly, I think, 5,200 kgs, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so the block fuel is 6,152. Okay. So this is the amount of fuel that we will be carrying. 5,922 is the takeoff fuel, and plus for taxi 230 additional kgs, and that's 6,152 kgs. Okay, so let's get back into XPlane, and let's set the fuel to 6,200. So first of all, call the fuel truck and set it to, let's keep it at 6,200. Anyhow, it's good. So set passengers, just call in the stairs from the left side, and you can see passengers are full. Set. And cargo, just leave it. If you want to call it, you can call in the cargo. It's 906 kgs. Set to 0, because in the flight planning we set the cargo to 0. Okay, so this is how you call the fuel, the passengers, and the cargo in the plane. And from here you can proceed further with the settings. Now there's one important thing that you have to do before you do anything else. Over here, ADIRS, this is basically the navigation for the plane. For the GPS, you have to turn these all three knobs to nav, so that the plane is has the GPS. Every time I make these videos, I call GPS the GPRS. I don't know why. So GPS alignment is required, because this is how the plane carries out the navigation, so you have to turn it on. And along with this, just turn on the fuel pumps. This is one thing which you have to remember. Most of the time I forget that, because I'm not consulting a checklist on the paper, because it gets very difficult while making a video while looking at the paper and then back on the screen. So I've tried to learn things on my own. So you can turn on the fuel pumps, but if you're following a certain checklist of your own, if you find it over the internet, maybe this comes at a later stage. It's totally up to you how you want to follow it. Once I have turned this option to nav, within some time we will see some information on the navigation display. Let's increase the brightness of the PFD and plus the navigation display. Over here you will see IR align in almost 7 minutes. Wow, it will take some time. Let's go here and let's see. If you go into the settings, you can see the IRS alignment speed is set to 1x. You can set it to 10x and you can apply. Without an installed user and password, external connections will not be available. Okay. Let's see if this time has reduced. So refueling is going on, and okay. So I think it's done now. I will show you how to get some display over here on the screen once we are into the flight planning part. But in the tab over here, if you set the IRS alignment speed to 10x, it's carried out in a very speedy manner. And if you want to keep it for 1, it will take like 7 to 8 minutes. Anyhow, just to save time right now in the video, I set it to 10x now. Now the basic settings, we have carried out the basic settings. You can see alignment is still going on. Now I will move on to the MCDU, which is the multifunction control and display unit of the Airbus A320. And I will now start configuring this MCDU for the flight planning, because MCDU interacts with the flight management system of the plane. So first of all, in the MCDU, click on data and click on the stats. This is the ARAC cycle. ARAC cycle basically consists of information regarding the waypoints, regarding the airports, and this is like a database for all the information for the airports and airways, as I told you before. It has to be updated, and there is this website navigraph.com where you can just go and subscribe to the ARAC cycles, and every month you are charged at a certain amount, and these ARAC cycles are updated in XPlane 11. You can update them. I updated them in March this year. So also SimBrief uses the ARAC cycle. So for my SimBrief and XPlane 11, it is updated till March this year. So it's more relevant, but if you want to have a subscription, you can do that. Otherwise, once making a flight plan, you might face an issue that a waypoint or a certain airway is not in the database. So that's a basic check that you have to do. Then you have to go to init. initialization page. This is the initialization A page, and if you click on this left button, this is the initialization B page. What a tongue twister. Okay, so first of all, you have to select from and to. I will be flying from Frankfurt, Heathrow, which is EGLL / You have to follow this format. You can see there are 4 boxes, and then there is a slash, and then 4 boxes. So EGLL for the first 4 boxes, and / EDDF. Just click over here and return. Now go to this iris init and align on reference. Confirmation. Now you will see you have the GPS coordinates for the current position. It means the iris is aligned, and now you can see the GPS primary signal is now here, and you can see some information in the navigation display. So that's how you do it. Now the flight number, I always keep it at AA123. AA is my initial, Atif Ahmed, so I keep AA123. Another is the cost index. Let's go over here and see what is the cost index right now. I will just tell you the details of the cost index. Does it come over here? I think it just comes over here. No. Can I see it? Okay. Anyhow, cost index is basically I remember in if I press it, what will happen? Will it pick? It will pick. No. Cost index is actually a number between 1 to 99. The smaller the number, the more the fuel consumption, the higher the number, less the fuel consumption. So let's say if your cost index is set to let's say a 50 as compared to 20 if you enter 20. So at 50 the plane will be going at a lower speed to burn less fuel. But if you enter the cost index as 20, the plane will be burning more fuel. This is basically an input for the flight management system for the autopilot. Once you set a cost index and the plane is in the cruising altitude mode, and even while climbing, the autopilot adjusts the speed according to the cost index. So if your cost index has a higher number, the speed will be slow, and if the cost index is at a lower number, the speed will be very fast. Most airlines have their own standards. I'm not really sure for different airlines, but anyhow, cost index, I keep it at 20. It means I want to go fast, burn more fuel. Cruising altitude, we set it to 350, which is flight level 350 or 35,000 feet. So I will enter 350, and if I press this select key on the left side, the 6th one, you will see the flight level 350 selected, and the temperature is also set to minus 54 degrees. This is the temperature at 35,000 feet. If you go here, wind request, you can get winds at different altitudes at 5,000 feet, 15,000, 25,000, and 35,000. This is the direction, 25 degrees, and this is the speed, 37 knots for the wind. Okay, so that's it. So go back to init, and we have now completed the init page. Let's go over here, and you will see the init B page is also set. Yes, it is set. This zero fuel weight, this is ZFW, zero fuel weight 52.7, zero fuel weight center of gravity 31.7. If you're wondering how the plane got the zero fuel weight and the zero fuel weight center of gravity, it's very simple. Just go onto this page and you will see the zero fuel weight is 52,670, which is 52.6 tons, and the zero fuel weight center of gravity is 31.7, and the center of gravity is 30.9. So 31.7 is entered, zero fuel weight center of gravity 31.7. You can see it is entered over here automatically, and 52.7, which is the zero fuel weight. So it is automatically populated over here. Okay, that's it. Now init A and init B done. Let's move on to the flight plan. Okay, so this page will help you populate the flight plan. Now you can see this is the departure airport, EGLL, and then this is the arrival airport or the destination airport, EDDF, which is Frankfurt. So let's go to EGLL, select departure, select the runway 9 left. Now from here we have to see which is the SID. Now let's go to SimBrief. Okay, in the SimBrief, refer to this routing line. Now this is basically a route. It consists of 4 things. One is the SID, another one is the star, and then a waypoint and an airway. What is a SID and what is a star? Now I'll tell you. Just refer to this diagram over here. So this is this diagram, or this what you can say, the map. You can see this is the Heathrow airport, EGLL, and this is the Frankfurt airport, the destination airport. Now you'll see that there are different dots, okay, and they have a name, DVR, Conan. These are the waypoints. So you consider them as waypoints, and this is the black line. You can consider that as an airway. Airway in your routing is always represented by alphanumeric number. This is L6 is an airway, UL9 is an airway, UL607 is an airway, T180 is an airway, and everything that's in totally alphabets is the waypoint. UNOCO, SPI, Conan, these are the waypoints. Now coming to the SID and star. SID and star is basically standard instrument departure, and star is standard arrival. So reaching every airport and departing from every airport, there is a certain procedure that has to be followed. So let's say once the plane takes off from EGLL, if I go to this Heathrow airport, once the plane takes off from EGLL, it will fly directly to DET. Okay, let's see, this is the waypoint. So the plane will take off and fly directly to a waypoint, that's DET. But to reach this DET, there is a certain procedure which is followed by a SID, which is standard instrument departure, and this is DET1K. So DET1K actually takes you through all these waypoints. There is a certain path that the plane follows to reach to the first waypoint from where the journey starts. And before landing, the last waypoint is UNOCO. So after UNOCO, the star is activated, and you'll see, I'll just show you over here, UNOCO. So at this point, then after this point, there is a certain procedure that the plane follows in order to land at the Frankfurt airport, and it is set by a star, which is UNO07N. So that's the basic. So we will be entering all the information over here. So let's go back into the XPlane 11 MCDU and select the SID as DET1K. So DET1K is the SID that's been entered. Now you'll see all these points which are shown in the SimBrief are populated over here. Okay, so now this is the last point, DET. As I told you, DET1K will take you to this point, DET. Now after this point, you have to go to the airway L6 to DVR. Okay, so click on DET and you'll see this option airways over here. So over here you can see via to. So via the airway L6 to DVR. So DVR. It's very simple. And that's it. So the next airway is UL9 to Conan. So you'll type UL9 via to KONN. Then from UL607 to SPI, UL607 to SPI. And that's it. I will just stop here because I've done it before. This T180 doesn't exist in the database. I think I'll just face an error. T180, I'll try. T180. Waypoint mismatch. So as my database is not updated, I think this is a reason I'm facing this issue. Anyhow, we can just press clear. I'll tell you a way around if you find this problem in your flight planning, how to overcome this issue. So now click temporary flight plan. Once you've entered the airways and the waypoints, click temporary flight plan and temporary insert, select this, and your flight plan is updated up till SPI. Okay, now I'll tell you another trick. So SPI was the last waypoint, and from here you have to go to UNOCO. So instead of entering the waypoint, airway, sorry, I can simply fly directly to UNOCO, and I'll tell you how to do that. Click SPI, go to airways, and type in UNOCO. And instead of entering the airway, we are selecting the waypoint directly, UNOCO, which will be populated in the flight plan, and insert temporary. And you will see that after SPI, I am flying to UNOCO directly. So that's simple. So if your MCDU is not picking up an airway, you can directly fly towards a waypoint using this procedure. Now the arrival is on, I always forget. Very bad with short-term memory. 7 left. Okay, so ILS 7 left is the webs, is the air is the runway, not the website. Is the runway I will be landing at, and we'll be landing through UNO 07. You will see here 07N. So let's find this star. Now, unfortunately, it is not here. So I always tell everybody that there is one way to find the star is to consult the airport charts. For most of the people, it gets very complex because reading the airport charts, if you don't have a proper background to read those, it's very kind of difficult and it's a hassle. So we can do a hit and trial method and see whether it works or not. So what I do is this: if I face this kind of an issue where there is a mismatch in the SimBrief and the MCDU star, I always select the one that's the nearest. So instead of finding UNO 07N, as I cannot find it, if I find something related to 7, I'll select it. Otherwise, what I do is this: I always select the first one. Okay, so after selecting this, you can see approach vias UNO 7N. It's coming here. So it works. So it's kind of a hit and trial method. You can try selecting different waypoints and see which one fulfills your flight planning criteria, and you can make a flight plan. As I've been doing it for a very long time, so for most of the airports, I remember which one to take. Now it's time to check your flight plan, whether you have made a valid flight plan or not. So go to this option over here and turn this knob into plan, from arc to plan, and also just zoom in a bit. This is zooming out of the flight plan, and this is zooming into the flight plan. Okay, now just go no, click this key, go to the start from where this flight plan will start, that is 9 left. Okay, so now you can see this flight path is populated the way it was shown in the SimBrief, which means that this is a good flight plan. So you can see this flight plan is properly populated, and all the waypoints and all the airways are there, and you can see this is a proper approach, and this is the runway. Okay, and you can use this wheel to zoom out and see if your approach is good, and this is similarly how was shown on the SimBrief, so it's good. Now set it to arc and just zoom in, and that's it. So this was flight planning, kind of easy. Just hit and trial, just try it, and maybe after some time you get an expert in this thing. It also has taken me a lot of time to understand and to do all these things. Okay, now after doing the flight plan, go to performance, and with the performance you have to set the flaps /THS. For takeoff, I will be using flaps at position 1, so I will enter 1. then after this you see the slash. Now the THS, basically this is the pitch of the plane, either pitch up or pitch down during the takeoff, as per the center of gravity of the plane. So if the center of gravity is slightly towards the back side, you have to pitch down, because otherwise the plane will pitch up and it can be a disaster. And if the center of gravity is towards the front of the plane, you have to pitch up, because the plane has to pitch up. From where you get this information, just go to this performance page, and you will see trim position down by 0.5. So simply enter this down 0.5. So this will be pitch down 0.5. So first of all enter 0.5 and then type DN. It's very simple. Okay. Now this is the flap position 1 and pitch down 0.5. So simple. Flex 2, it is actually the temperature which you feed into the flight management system for the takeoff. So during the takeoff, you basically take off at full throttle. You give full power to the engine, but as per the flex temperature settings, the throttle doesn't go up to 100%. Because if it's let's say in summers, it's really hot, you're taking off from an airport where it's 45 degrees centigrade, and you are taking off at 100% throttle, obviously engines will heat up, and you can face an engine failure or any other accident. So in this regard, you tell your plane that the flex to temperature is slightly always higher than the outside temperature. Let's say if it's 45 degrees, you set it to 48 degrees or 49 degrees. So during the takeoff, when you set your throttle to full, the autopilot doesn't take the engine power up to the 100%, keeps always at 95% or 90% as per the flex temperature. There is a formula and a method to calculate the flex temperature. You can just go into those details, but somehow for this video I don't want to get into those details. But just remember, it is always higher than the outside temperature. So let's say if in Heathrow right now it's 10 degrees, you keep it at 15 degrees or something like this. So let's say for this flight I'll keep it at 20. Anyhow, just rough idea. I'm just getting into so much details, but still you can read it over the internet and find this formula and you can do it. Anyhow, I've been using an estimated number for this flight simulation. Now it's time to set the V1, VR and V2. What are these speeds? I'll tell you. So first of all, click on this button. You'll get the VR, V2 speed, which is 134 knots. VR is 130, and V1 can be 129. This is what you have to enter manually. So now V1 is basically the speed during the takeoff, at which even if you decide to abort the takeoff, the plane will stop by the end of the runway. But if your speed is more than 120 knots, then it will be a disaster. It can be a disaster. VR is the speed at which you rotate the stick and you take off, and V2 is the speed at which the plane can fly at with one engine due to any failure or bird hit or anything like this. Transition altitude is the altitude where you set the barometric pressure from the ground level to the standard. So this is the barometric pressure. In this tutorial I will not be touching it, but somehow you can just adjust the barometric pressure. You can get it from the different websites for the temperature, where you can know that what is the barometric pressure at the departure and the arrival airport. For this I will be just keeping at 29.92, which is the standard. And thrust reduction is the speed at which you will be reducing your thrust. So after the takeoff, during the takeoff you keep your thrust at this option, toga, and after 1500 feet, 1580 feet during the climb, you reduce the thrust to this option, because you don't have to climb at 95 or 98% of thrust, because again it's you're putting too much pressure on the engines, so can cause failures, and plus reduces the engine life. So that's why you reduce it to climb, which is roughly 89% to 91% of engine power, and then the plane climbs on that. So this is the thrust reduction altitude. So that's it. It was related to the basics of the MCDU There's so many other things which you can just go and configure. Let's see if I not allowed. Okay. So init B done, flight plan done, performance done. This is it. This is the basic setting that you need to do it. Now, as we have set the altitude to 35,000 feet, so over here, altimeter set it to 35,000 feet. This will be your altitude to which you will be climbing. Okay, now it's time to call off the passenger service and the cargo service. So let's go here, fuel, remove, passengers remove, cargo remove. Now over here in the screen you will see all the doors getting closed. So now all the doors are closed, passengers have boarded the plane, you have the fuel, everything is good. Now before the pushback, as I told you before, that we have to turn on the APU, that is the auxiliary power unit, which is the generator within the plane. You have to turn it on, the APU, and then on the after the pushback you turn off the APU and you turn on the engines. So let's start off with the procedure to turn on the APU. But before this, turn on the beacon. This is basically a light on the plane. When turned on, it tells the ground staff on the ground that the plane is about to start its engine. So you have to turn on the beacon. Now turn on the APU master switch and then start the APU. Okay, now it's on. Let's go over here. Sorry for this. Okay. Let's go over here and let's see over here in the lower ECAM that the APU is now starting. Once this APU is available, then we can turn on the APU bleed. So let's wait for it. It takes some time. Okay, now the APU is available. Over here on the overhead panel you will also see that for the APU start it says avail. Now turn on the APU bleed. So with this, now the plane is has the power coming in from the APU. You no longer need the external power, so we can turn off the external power and it says available, and just call off the ground power unit and remove the chocks, because now you want to push back, and that's it. And let's start with the pushback procedures. Go over here into the flight and show ground handling window and request ground service.
Okay, service trucks coming.
You can see the GPU leaving. And where is the tug? Is it coming?
All right, service is on the way.
Okay. With this, release the parking brake, which is over here, and let's see if the tug is here. And let's.
Okay, I'll send the push cart.
Okay, now here's the tug. So the tug is here. I have requested the tug to turn the plane towards left from the pilot's perspective. We have to see it from the pilot's perspective because the runway is on the right side. There is also a plugin for the pushback in XPlane 11. I've seen some YouTubers using that. What is the fuel truck going to push me back? No. Let's see. Let's do it again. And
all right, I got the service request. Service trucks coming.
where it is. I don't want to install any plugins because you just keep on adding stuff to your XPlane 11 and one time some other plugin is not working. Although it's good to use it, but anyhow, let's see. I think it comes very quickly. When I was doing the flight on my own, the tug was really quick.
Sending service now.
Okay. Is it coming? What's going on?
Okay, service trucks coming.
Oh, finally the tug is here. Let's go back and some delay. Actually, this truck is blocking.
Service on the way. Okay, service trucks coming. Service on the way.
Actually, you know, the best thing about these flight simulators, if you're doing a flight without making a video on YouTube, everything is working all right. And once you decide to make a video, everything goes wrong.
Here we go.
Now, this was something really different. Anyhow, on the weekends, I only get time to make these videos, so I don't have enough time to redo and retake it. So, sorry for any inconvenience. But somehow, this is the best part about these simulators. Sometimes some things work, some things don't work. Okay. Instead of setting it to 35,000 feet, I set it to 3,500. So let's set the cruising altitude to let's change the units to thousands, and 35,000. There you go. So it's set to 35,000. I think it's time to stop. I always request the pushback to the left, because the plane has to turn left, and then go here from here. Anyhow, just like it just pushes back straight. We can turn after we have turn on the engines if we are ready for the taxi. Okay, now some basic checks before we turn on the engines. Check that this thrust lever is at 0, and the fuel pumps are on. Always remember to do that. APU bleed should be on, because if the APU bleed is not on, the engines will not start. Okay, over here there's this engine mode selector, and for the engine mode selector, it is right now set to normal. So turn this knob to start. Then you will start with engine 2, which is the right engine, and over here you will see some life coming, which means the engine 2 is starting. We will wait for the engine 2 to stabilize, and once it's stabilized, then we will start engine 1. Okay, now activate the air brakes, because during the flight, if you need the air brakes, they should be activated. They should be in the activated position, and the seat belt is on, no smoking is on, strobe is on, and wing lights, nav and logo on. So turn on the lights, and that's it. Now engine 1 is available. Engine 2, sorry. It's available, the one on the right side, and now it's time to turn on the engine 1, and I will wait for the engine 1 to start, and once the engine 1 is start, we will deactivate or turn off the APU, and then we are ready to take off. Time is 9:41 in the morning. We started our flight at 9 o'clock, 41 minutes. It's good. For boarding and for all the settings and flight configuration, flight planning. So this is good. 41 minutes into this flight planning. Okay, now you can see the engine 1 is also stabilized at 58.5. The N2% is 58.5 or 21.9% of N1. So now it's time to set it to back to normal, and it's time to turn off the APU. Okay, so everything is looking good. Why this truck is here? I will just ignore this truck. Release the parking brakes, and let's get the best view from the cockpit, and let's start the taxi. So now I've started the taxi. Let's take the flaps to position 1. So now you can see that I've set the flaps to position 1, and that's it. So after the takeoff, we will climb up to 36,000 feet. Right now it's set to 6,000. You can see over here. Let's bring your cursor over here and press this button. Okay, it's not changing right now. Maybe after the takeoff it will work, because there are two types of modes in the Airbus. One is the managed mode and another one is the selected mode. Managed mode means if you are flying in the managed mode, right now you can see the heading is in the managed mode and the speed is in the managed mode. It means that whatever the information is entered into the MCDU and whatever has been fed into the flight management system to the autopilot, the plane will fly accordingly. Okay, the speed and the heading and plus the navigation, it will be done on the managed mode. And if in the selected mode, then whatever the information you gave over here in these input areas for the speed, for the heading, and for the altitude, the plane will fly on that. So this is the difference between the managed mode and the selected mode. So during the flight, I will tell you what is the difference between the managed mode and the selected mode by showing you it on the screen. Right now I'm taxiing towards runway 9 left, and you can see that the heading is set to these 3 dashes, and plus there is a circle. It is in the managed mode. It means as soon as we'll take off from the runway and turn on the autopilot, the plane will follow the flight path as per the information entered into MCDU, in which we have populated the flight plan, all the waypoints and the airways, and plus the SID and the star. And the speed will also be managed automatically by the autopilot, but as soon as we'll take off and turn on the autopilot, I will also tell you how to switch between the selected mode and the engaged mode. And right now you can see that I've selected the altitude to 36,000 feet, but right now over here on the primary flight display you see 6,000 because right now altitude is in the managed mode. So during the takeoff, if you turn on these constraints, I will also show you that. If you turn on the constraints, that at every waypoint there is a certain altitude and a certain speed you should be at, which is showed in the navigation display, which is over here. This is the navigation display. If you click on that, it will pop up on your screen. So the plane will follow the information as per the information in the autopilot. So you can also climb using the managed mode, or either you want to simply fly straight away to or climb up to 36,000 feet. You can do that. So now the runway is starting. Before runway checkups checklist, a small one, just check your flaps are down, and plus your the auto brakes are set to maximum. Anti-skid is on in case if you want to stop, do an emergency stop. Otherwise everything is good. Barometric pressure, as I told you before, in this flight I will not be playing around with it, but you can set the altitude, the barometric pressure. As you can see, this red line is over here, which is good. I think if we increase it up to, anyhow, just leave it at 29.92. You don't want to mess around with things too much. Okay, now you can see we are on the runway 9 left, and that's it. You can see this green line over here, which is a solid line, which means that after the takeoff, and I'll turn on the autopilot, the plane will follow the flight plan. Or if I want to use the heading, I can just enter the heading over here. Now the plane will fly in the selected mode, whatever the heading I will give over here. So let's click on this button. Once you see the up arrow, it means it's in the manage mode. The plane will follow the flight path entered into the MCDU for the flight planning. So let's go, give full throttle, and let's take this plane up in the air. Just keep an eye on the PFD. You will see the V1 and the VR, where we have to rotate and take the plane off the runway. Here it is. This is V1 and this is rotate. So rotate. Positive rate of climb. So gears up. So you have to adjust the climb rate in such a way that the speed keeps on increasing. So if you're climbing at a very high rate, the speed will not increase, so you have to adjust it accordingly. We are about to reach 1500 feet, where I will reduce the thrust to climb. And here it is. It's time to reduce the thrust to climb. So just reduce the climb rate so that the speed is increasing. Over here we have to touch this red line, from where I can just retract the flaps. Here you go. So I can just retract the flaps now. Let's turn on the autopilot and let the autopilot do the job. So the flaps are retracted, and now the plane is following the flight path. As you can see, the altitude is in the manage mode. You can see this circle over here. But if I click on over here, now it is on the selected mode. See? So this is the manage mode. Just press it for, I think, 1 or 2 seconds. Keep on pressing it. And press and hold, and now it's 6,000. So the plane will now level off at 6,000 feet over here at this point. You can see this arrow. So let's ignore that and climb straight towards 36,000, sorry. Flight level 360. Okay, so now the plane is climbing, and it will reach the cruising altitude of what did I said? I set it to 36. Let's see. Yes, 36,000. Flight level is 360, so 36,000. But over here on the screen, you can see the constraints in the navigation display. That at this point, 1829, you should be at 3,000 feet. Anyhow, I'm just ignoring that. If you want to follow that, you can do it on your own. But if you bring your cursor over here and you see the down arrow, if you press this, now the plane is going on a selected mode. Similarly, I will do the same thing with the speed. I will set the speed to 230, because below 10,000 feet you should be not more than 230 knots. So I will go here and press and hold for like 1 to 2 seconds, and then the speed is also selected to 230 knots. The speed will reduce slightly as the plane is also climbing. So the autopilot will adjust the vertical speed in such a way that the speed is reduced to this level, and then the thrust is adjusted accordingly. Right now you can see that the thrust is set to climb. Everything is looking good so far. Let's see one more thing, something really interesting, which is not there in the Microsoft Flight Simulator Airbus A320s, because somehow I don't know why in the Microsoft Flight Simulator the top of descent is not given. Over here you'll see 2 arrows, one in this color over here at this point Conan, and plus there's another one in the white color, which is after the SPI. This is the point where we will reach 36,000 feet, and this is the point from where we will start the descent, or the top of descent. So it's very easy. So from Conan to SPI we will fly at the cruising altitude, that is 36,000 feet. Right now you can see the QNH is blinking. It means we have crossed the transition altitude. As I told you before, after the transition altitude you have to actually set the barometric pressure to standard. So I'll come over here and I'll press on this button, the one with the arrow below, down arrow, showing the down arrow, and it will be set to standard. So now everything is good. So the plane is now climbing, and as we have crossed 10,000 mark, we can increase the speed. I can set it to 280 knots. Okay. Now I was just showing it to you that now we are flying in the selected mode. Whatever the speed I am selecting, the plane is following that speed. So I've set it 280. But if you don't want to do it manually, simply click over here and press it for 1 or 2 seconds, and then you will see these 3 dashes and plus the circle. It means now the plane is flying in the managed mode. So now for every waypoint in the flight plan, there is a certain speed which the autopilot will follow, and that's it. You can see the vertical speed is decreasing right now. It is 1,200 feet per minute. It has slightly decreased because the speed is increasing, and as soon as it is at 290 knots, if I'm not wrong, now the vertical speed will increase further so that the plane climbs. So the autopilot compensates the climb with the speed so that the speed is increased. So it's kind of a inversely proportional thing. If you want to increase the speed, you have to reduce your vertical speed, and if you want to increase your vertical speed, you have to reduce your speed. It's very simple. So if you want to climb at a high rate, reduce the speed, and the plane will go at a high rate, because then less power is required on the engines. So this is how this vertical speed and the speed in the knots over here is compensated. So right now the plane is climbing at 2,500 feet, and if I'm not wrong, after 18,000 feet, it should not be more than 1,800 feet per minute. So I think after 18,000 feet over here, the vertical speed will be 1,800 feet per minute. Let's see if the autopilot does that. No, it's okay. Well, it's at 2,400 feet. Anyhow, as long as we are climbing up to 36,000 feet, everything is looking good. So we are now out of the Heathrow airport and flying towards Frankfurt. Everything is looking good so far. Yeah, let's sound the speed brakes. This is one thing which we have to do. Okay, so this is good. So this was kind of a very basic, what you can say, a tutorial of setting up the MCDU, making the flight plans, starting up the plane from the cold and dark state. Obviously there's so many other things that you can do. You can download different checklists, but this was a very basic level, as I told you before, that it's for the beginners, somebody who's really learning to fly or flying the Airbus A320 for the first time. Just want to just touch the quick topics, but soon definitely I will be coming up with some other tutorials in which I will be going through the procedures more than the basic and we will be going into further details. But anyhow, just this is more than enough to take this plane from one place to another, and you can enjoy some good flights. You can land at different airports, you can refuel, make your own flight plans, and then you can proceed further from there. So right now the plane is climbing, so let's wait for it to reach the 36,000 feet mark, flight level 360. Okay, now the plane is at 34,700 feet, and as you can see in the navigation display, that soon the plane will be reaching at 36,000 feet. And the plane will level off at 36,000 feet, and then it will fly towards the destination, and just right at the top of descent I will start the descent, and then I will tell you how to start the descent, and then perform an ILS approach, and then land your plane safely on the runway. Nice weather. It's cloudy weather, by the way. So now the plane will be leveling off at 36,000 feet. Here you go. So now I will wait and I'll start the descent at the top of descent. Okay, now you can see it on your screens that the top of descent is nearing, so we'll start the descent. Simply go over here and click this option. Okay, it's not working. I will set the descent altitude to 5,000 feet and let's see what happens. No, I think upwards. Yes, flight level 5,000. So now the plane will descend to 5,000 feet, as I've been doing this route before, so I know we should be at 5,000 feet before the runway. The constraints, if you want to just like gauge what altitude you should be at different waypoints, you can simply again consult the constraints, and you can see that at this point you should be at 11,000 feet. And near the runway you should be at 5,000 feet. Okay, right now it's too much noise or information over there. So now the plane is descending at a very high rate. It's 3,400 feet per minute. The speed is increasing, but the autopilot will manage it itself, so don't have to worry about that. I once engaged this option, I remember. Okay, what if I keep it at 3,000? I just wanted to show you something over here. Okay, now as it is now set to, yes, exactly, now it worked. So let's say once I was doing this flight before, I wanted to descend to 3,000 feet, and I what you can say, engage the managed mode by pressing the left mouse button over here when the up key arrow is there, and instead of 3,000 it was displayed 5,000. Flight level 50. Flight level 50 is 5,000 feet. So it means that as per the autopilot you should be at 5,000 feet. If you want to check, you can also go to the flight plan, and you can just cycle through all the waypoints, and you will see over here that you should be at this waypoint before the runway, EDDF 07 left, you should be at 5,000 feet. Okay, at this point DF 452. So you should be at 5,000 feet. So this is a very nice way to gauge that what altitude you should be at. So while descending, you can simply engage this managed mode, and then it's done. Otherwise, I can also manually set it to 5,000, and then once the down arrow key is shown, I can just press and hold for 1 or 2 seconds, and then the 5,000 feet will be selected. So this is how you decide which altitude you should be at before the runway. Now as the plane is descending, so that's why the speed is also decreasing as per the autopilot and as per the constraints. Soon we will be heading towards the runway, which is 7 left. I always forget it's left or right, so it's runway 7 left. If I mistakenly say 7 right during this video, kindly excuse me for that. I get confused. This is some issue. Okay, I've been very bad at landings. Somehow for the past few weeks I have been trying to master the art of landing, because taking off the plane is easy from the runway, but landing is not that easy. You have to really practice that. Let's can I set this speed to max now? But let's set the auto brakes to we cannot set it to max right now, but let's set it to medium, because after landing you need brakes, and plus I will be also activating the reverse thrust. Reverse thrust is actually in the throttle, and once you bring it back all over here to this place, the reverse thrust is on, in which the engines run in a reverse manner, or the thrust of the engines are reversed, not the engines actually revolve in a reverse manner, but rather the thrust is reversed, due to which the speed is drastically decreased after the landing. So I'm using the Logitech 3D Extreme Pro stick, and over there, and one of the buttons is configured as a thrust, reverse thrust. You can also go into the settings and set any of the button on the keyboard or mouse or your flying stick or whatever the instrument you're using for flying for the reverse thrust. But this is how I will be managing the reverse thrust after the landing. Now the autopilot has adjusted the speed to 280 knots, and the descent rate is 2000 feet per minute, which is a good descent rate. And as you can see it on your screen over here, you'll see this arrow which shows that at this waypoint you will be at 5000 feet, which is the point you should be at, 5000 feet. So that's it. It's easy, not that difficult. But just keep on practicing. You have to do 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 flights in order to basically learn everything, and have to experiment everything on your own, so that you are comfortable with this plane. Because before even making the video, I practiced it 3 or 4 times, just to make sure that while making the video I'm following all the steps. Somehow some of the steps are still missed throughout the video, because I'm concentrating some other parts as well. But anyhow, it's good to practice, and practice different airports, whatever the airports you want to fly to. And if you want me to try any flight, just give your comments in the comment section, and I will do that flight for you. So now the plane is at 22,000 feet. Everything is looking good so far. Let's just jump out of the cockpit and let's see what's happening in the outside world. Enough of the cockpit view throughout the flight. Okay, so it's cloudy in Frankfurt right now. Even when I was planning to make this video, I just did one experimental flight, and it was really cloudy. I think till 2000 feet there were clouds. But the Frankfurt airport is equipped with the ILS category 3, so you were very perfectly aligned with the runway. So once I'm near the runway, I'll activate the ILS, and you will see that up till I think 100 feet above the ground, you are perfectly aligned with the runway. So I will disengage the autopilot, and then I will try to land. Let's get back into the cockpit. So here we are at the cockpit, and now I think the plane is now passing Unoko. Yes, has passed Unoko, and going to Ibville. At this point, you should be at 11,000 feet, flight level 110. Thanks to this constraints option, you are able to see your speed at different waypoints and your altitude at different waypoints. So it's a good indicator. But anyhow, when you want to start your descent, you can even select the manage mode, as I told you before, and your descent altitude is automatically selected by the autopilot, and the plane will start to descend. Otherwise, if you want to do it manually, you can go to the flight plan and just search for the waypoint, which is just before the runway, too steep path. The descent rate is now under control. It's at 1,800 feet. Let's see at what point just before the runway we will be at 5,000 feet. So this is a Good point. And as soon as we are here after D454, I will activate this button LS. The moment I'll activate LS, which is for the ILS, you will see two diamonds over here on the vertical and the horizontal axis of the primary flight display, which will show us the alignment with the runway. And once we are aligned with the runway horizontally and vertically, these diamonds are aligned over here, I will activate the approach mode by selecting this button, and you will see the plane will automatically start to descend towards the runway. And just before the touchdown, I will at 100 feet or 200 feet, I will disengage the autopilot and try to land it manually. So some checks before the landing. Everything is good so far. Before these turns, I will reduce the speed. Because if the autopilot doesn't reduce the speed before these points, there is a chance, or definitely, the plane is going to miss the turns. Because obviously at a higher speed, the plane needs a bigger radius to turn. And in lower speeds, it's a smaller radius to turn. So by this point, I will decide whether to reduce the speed or not. And if I'm reducing the speed, then I'll also extend the flaps in order to create extra lift for the plane and plus the drag, so that the speed is reduced automatically. And in order to have a drastic decrease in the speed, I will also use the air brakes if required, which is over here. The air brakes are now armed. As you can see, this white line, it means they're armed, and if it's down, it means they are disarmed. So now it's armed. Okay, so you just pull it. You can see this runway is being shown over here. 7 left, ILS approach. The speed is still. So you can see this, that before this waypoint, the plane is at 12,500 feet. I think if I was going at a managed mode, then the plane should have been at 11,000 feet at this point. Otherwise, no need to worry. I've done this thing before. So the plane is at a good altitude before the runway, because you don't want to come really high while approaching the runway, because if you're really high, then you have to increase your descent rate in order to touch the runway or to land safely. And due to this high descent rate, speed will increase, so it gets very difficult. So it's better to be at a lower altitude before the runway in order to land, rather than being at a higher altitude. So some more ground to cover. See, it's all cloudy right now. Descent rate has also increased to 2,500 now. $5,000 feet to go. You can see the speed is also reducing. Now the speed is at 250 knots. So it's good. The autopilot is managing the speed. After this turn, I will just see if the speed is not further reduced, then I will take the flaps. And the flap settings are given over here. At 230 knots, you can extend your flaps to position 1. So if right now, if I'll extend the flaps, you will get this warning for the overspeeding, because the speed is set to 250. So if you want to extend the flaps right now, you can change the speed from managed mode to the selected mode, and then you can extend the flaps. But right now, I think it's not required. Let's see after the first turn what happens, and then we can decide whether we want to reduce the speed manually or not. Otherwise, everything is looking good so far. Everything is as per the plan. It's a long approach. You need to have some patience to wait for this approach. The last leg, this run is very long. It takes a lot of time. On the map, it looks a short run, but it's a very long run. Not that short. Okay, so let's see what happens on this turn. Whether the plane misses it or catches the radius of the turn. You see, I told you this approach is a very long approach for the Frankfurt airport. Looks small on the map, but it takes a lot of time to cover this approach. So the plane is at 6,400. feet. You can see the vertical speed has further reduced to 1,200 feet per minute. Now let's wait for the first turn, which will be the right turn, and let's see if the plane misses the turn or just remains in the pattern. So if it remains in the pattern, the speed is good. Yes, it is, I think. It's not at a high speed. So let's keep on going at 250 knots as set by the autopilot. Oh, we are at 5,000 feet, way before the indication that was coming over here on the navigation display. Anyhow, the plane should have been at flight level 90. This is 9,000 feet by this point, but it's to be safe. As I told you before, it's safer to be at a lower altitude rather than at a higher altitude, because then once you're close to the runway, it gets very difficult to manage your speed and plus your descent. Now you can see the standard thing is blinking, so just press on this and change it to 29.92. You can just consult any website and for the weather website, and you can get this reading from the website, and you can adjust it accordingly, and your altimeter will be accordingly adjusted. Right now for this flight I am not doing it. So now the plane is at 5,000 feet and one more leg to go, and then afterwards the two left turns and we align with the runway. Over here you can see at this point Vagul, V-A-G-U-L. So at this waypoint you should again start your descent towards the runway. But as I told you before, that till this point I will be activating ILS, and then once the diamonds over here, which will be displayed once the ILS is activated, I will start the approach after alignment, so the plane will automatically start to descend, so nothing to worry about. So let's wait for the plane to cover this leg, and then we will start the procedure. So I should have been at 5,000 feet over here by this point. as you can see. Anyhow, I was just trying to be safe during the flight. Don't want any mishaps, because honestly speaking, this is my last day of the weekend. Tomorrow it's a working day for me. Sundays is always a working day for me in the Middle East. So that's why I just wanted to do this video without any mishaps, because I don't have the time and plus the patience to repeat this video again. So now I'm actually regularly doing videos on every weekend, and plus on the weekdays, if I get a time, I'll also do videos for you. And if you've got any questions, if you want me to try any airport or any other flight, you just let me know, and I'll just do it for you guys. And plus, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because I keep on making different videos, so you'll be getting alerts every time when I upload a video. As I told you before, this is you have to wait very patiently. This is a long approach. Anyhow, the speed is at 250. So let's reduce the speed. I will keep the speed at 220 so that I can take the flaps, and before the landing the speed is under control. So I will set it to 220 and I will press on the selected mode. Now you will see the speed will reduce. Yes, now the speed is reducing, which is good. And when the speed is below 230 knots, I will take the flaps by position 1. Let's wait for it to reduce. You can see now, as we have the flaps, the speed limit is activated, or it's lowered to 230. So now you cannot go more than this speed with the given settings for the flaps. And just right before the runway, the speed should be roughly between 150 160. Now after this turn, I will be activating the LS, which is the ILS, and the ILS information will be displayed over here, which is the instrument landing system. The ILS frequency will be displayed. This helps the plane to just touch down at the runway at the right point. So you have a smooth landing. So ILS is a very good technology. You don't have to find the runway manually. Plus you can see it's too cloudy, and I think clouds are till 1500 feet or 1800 feet. So due to this reason, you cannot see the runway. So ILS really helps you find the runway, and it takes you close to the runway. Now let's turn on the LS, and then you will see some dots coming over here, or vertically or horizontally on the primary flight display. And as soon as we are near the runway, you will see 2 diamonds over here, one over here and one on this side. And you can see the ILS frequency 110.30, 110.30. Now you can see that this diamond is here. So it means if this diamond is here in the middle, it means we are perfectly aligned with the runway. And over here, when this diamond will come over here in this yellow line, it means the plane will touch down at the runway at the right spot, the right point. So it's 21 nautical miles away. And we will just keep on descending through the clouds. I think when last time I was doing this flight, I had a visual with the runway at 500 feet or 600 feet. Yeah, this is the runway. Okay, so after this point, now you can see another diamond has started to appear over here. It means that we are slightly high. Sorry, we are low. We are low. As I told you before, it's better to be at a lower altitude while approaching the runway than to be at a high. If you were high, let's say at 8,000 feet, this diamond would have been over here, just below this yellow line, which means you're coming in high. But if it is above this line, it means you're coming in low, so which is good. You can wait for some time, and once this diamond is over here, then you can start the approach. So slowly the plane will align itself with the runway. I think after this waypoint, this diamond will also start to come over here, and as soon as we'll be near the runway, this diamond will come over here. As you can see, we are nearing the runway, this diamond is coming down. So now it is going to catch the glide slope for the ILS. Glide slope is basically the path or the angle the plane takes in order to touch down at the runway at the right point. Let's reduce the speed, and let's keep it at 180 knots. And let's extend the flaps. You can hear this error because I extended the flaps earlier, and this is an overspeeding indication, so we can just ignore this, and now we are safe in the safe zone. You can see this diamond is now approaching this yellow line. So now we can activate this approach button. There you go. So category 3 ILS has started. Now you can see the plane is also turning left and right just to align itself with the runway, thanks to the ILS technology. You can see this localizer coming up over here, and the glide slope, it means that we are you can say attuned into the localizer. The localizer is basically the transmitter which aligns the plane with the runway for the ILS, and this means we are now following the glide slope. Now you can see we are not adjusting the altitude automatically. This ILS is now taking the plane down to the runway, exactly to the point where the plane will touch at the runway at the proper touch point. As now you can see that we don't even have visuals on the runway, but the ILS is taking you there. That's the beauty of the ILS, and category 3 is very accurate. Up till 100 feet above the ground, you are perfectly aligned with the runway, so you don't have to have visuals on the runway. So that's it. Some little distance to cover. I think if it's I'm not wrong, it's 8 nautical miles to go, 8.7. Soon we will be landing in Frankfurt, and now the plane is going through the clouds. Let's reduce the speed further. Let's keep it at 160. And that's it.
2,500.
Okay, now it's time to take the gears. 2,500. And now I can extend the flaps to full. Let's further reduce the speed. Now you can see over here on the ECAM, on the upper ECAM, the flaps are fully extended. You can see it over here. The flaps are fully extended, and the speed is now set to 150, and still, and you can see over here, as I have not set the barometric pressure, that's why there's a difference in the altitude. It's over here, it's showing 2,600, but we are at 1,720, so that's the difference. So it's better to adjust your barometric pressure over here so that you get the proper readings. But anyhow, as I've been doing so many flights, so I'm used to it right now. So with some errors, I somehow managed my flight. As I told you before, this is a very basic video which takes you through the basics from getting one airport to another. So if you want to purchase this plane, Airbus A320, and do different flights all around the world on different airports, these steps will easily take you through everything. So you can see that up till 1,200 feet, there is no visibility. You cannot see the runway. So let's check. Can I maximum? No, I cannot do maximum. But the gears are lower, flaps are full. Basic.
1,000.
So 1,000 feet. I think at 500 or I think at 400, we will see the runway. But don't have to worry about that if you cannot see the runway, as your primary flight display and your navigation display is showing you that this is the runway, so you are coming in right, and plus these two diamonds for the ILS are properly aligned. And as we entered the runway 7 left in the MCDU in the flight plan, so that's fine. No, yes, at 560. Now you can see the runway. Runway is there. Can I further reduce the speed? Yes, I can keep it at 140. So 400 feet. You can see land option is now being displayed. As I told you before, this is the proper point at the where you should be touching down. So ILS has just brought us here. Time to disengage the autopilot and just pull back on your stick a little bit and touchdown. Time to activate the reverse thrust, and you can see the speed is now reducing. Oops. It's getting difficult to keep the plane straight. Anyhow, thank you very much for staying with me. So this was a little tutorial and introduction to the basics of the FlightFactor. I just purchased this plane almost a year back, and since then I've not been able to do any video on my channel. So this was one of the first videos. I will be doing more videos for this Airbus A320 of FlightFactor for XPlane 11. After I think more than a year, I'm just doing this flight. Thank you very much for staying with me. If you've got any questions, do ask me in the comment section, and if you want me to try something different, you can also suggest. Thank you very much once again. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and hope to see you soon.